Okay, go on.
So remember, it as a korban, the animal itself. So now we're on Sadik Ches 98. We're learning the Mishnah that if you originally designated an animal that was not roy lepesach, it has kedusha, but it doesn't have kedusha to be offered, and it can't be korev shlomim either because it was nidche from the beginning, says Rashi. However, it has holiness. So you have to wait until it gets a mum. You take the money, and you buy another animal, and you offer it as a shlom. Now, another case. Hamafrish pischol v'meis, a person designated a korban pesach, and then he died. Lo yivienu bno achrav, l'shem pesach, el l'shem shlom. So it's no longer, it's batel from Toiras Pesach. It's an example of a Pesach Shemesu Bailav. And the son wasn't appointed to be part of that. If he's appointed to be part of it, we'll see the Gemara, what we're going to talk about. We'll see when he died. But if no one was appointed besides the guy who designated it, there's no menuyin, the Pesach doesn't have any eaters, so the son can be offered as a moiser Pesach l'shlamim.
So this is before he formed a membership in it.
Before. We'll see in a minute. If the son is part of the membership, then he could offer it as a shlamim. Right, that makes sense. Correct, Johnny? If the son had been subscribed to the Korban Pesach, and then the father died, so then it could be korev shlamim by the son.
So this is the first person that picked it, and then decided. Then from then on, he was going to get subscribers, but he died before that.
He was mafresh it and then died. Okay. So in that case, the son inherits it, but it can't be offered as a korban pesach. It can only be offered as a shlamim.
That's a shlamim, right? Okay.
We learn three principles. Some people hold that when you shecht an animal and now you have meat, and the meat, let's say, is touched by a sheretz, or the meat is taken outside of the azora and then brought into the azora. So hoil v'nidche nidche. Once it was taken out, you can't use it anymore because of the principle hoil v'nidche nidche. But some people hold that only works by basar shchuta, that live animals cannot be nidche. And that means if you hold that live animals cannot be nidche, then the son could take this animal and designate it for a shlamim because it would nidche being pushed aside, it can't be pushed aside as a live animal. So this owner died, somebody else can come and now offer it as a shlamim. However, it's clear that the Tan of our Mishnah holds that Baalei Chayim are nidche. Because once the Baalim died, that's it. It's nidche, and nobody else can resume it. So that's why the Gemara is learning. Shma mina tla, shma mina Baalei Chayim nidchim. This Tana does hold that even a live animal can be nidche. Number two, shma mina dichui meikara havi dichui. Some people will say that dichui only works if the kodshim was a valid kodshim from beginning. I have an animal that's a shlamim, and I shecht it, and I have the meat, and I take the meat outside lazor, and then I bring it back, or the blood. I take the dam outside, I bring it back in. I can't do zrik anymore because it was nidche. But that's because the korban originally was a good korban. Here, when I designated a female to be a Pesach, it's not roy to be a Pesach. So how could dichui even work here? Because this Tana holds even dichui meikara havi dichui. Even when the fact that it was nidche from the first minute you said anything, it's already considered nidche. It doesn't have to have normal kedusha and then lose it. Dichui meikara havi dichui. Ushmamina yesh dichui bedomim. That not even the gufa korban can be pushed aside, but even money, even the value, because we don't use the money to buy a korban pesach, because since the whole din of the korban pesach was nidche because it wasn't valid, So the money is pushed off to a shlomim and you can't use it to buy Korban Pesach. Hamafrish pischo ton rabbanon. Hamafrish is pischo v'meis. Person designated an animal to be Korban Pesach and died. Im beno memuna imo, like what Johnny was saying. If the son had subscribed to the Korban Pesach, Yavienu l'shum Pesach. The son can bring it as a Korban Pesach. Ein beno memuna imo. If the son was not designated, subscribed to it, Yavienu l'shum shlomim l'shisha asar. He can bring it as a shlomim, but not Tesvav Nisan. Tesvav Nisan, you can only offer like a Korban Chagiga. You can't offer a regular neder and a dava on Yontif. For example, I live in Tel Aviv, and I want to bring a Korban Shlomim as a donative offering to the Beis HaMikdash. Yeah, that Shlomim cannot be shechted on Shabbos, cannot be shechted on Yontif. I can bring a Korban Chagiga, which is a specific Shlomim that was used on Yontif, but it had its own dinim, only one day, not a regular Shlomim, and you have to, that's doiche yontif, but a regular shlomim is not. So that's why it says here he can bring it on the 16th, the first day of Chol HaMoed. L'shisha sar in, l'chamisha sar lo. Because kasavar nedarim is ain't craven beyontif. We'll see, that's a machlokes, but this mandamar holds that a regular neder and a dava, like a shlomim that you donate, cannot be offered on yontif. Now the Gemara is going to analyze. The misa'av emes. When exactly did this father die? Meaning, Chatzois is noontime, Yud Daled Nisan. This person designated the animal at 6 o'clock in the morning to be a Korban Pesach. You can only shecht it after Chatzois. The guy died 10 o'clock in the morning before Chatzois. So you said, B'noi memune imo ivienu l'shum Pesach. We said that if the son had been subscribed along with the father, he could eat it. He could bring it as a Pesach. So that's a problem. At 10 o'clock in the morning, this son just lost his father. He becomes an onen. Hachala aninu siloi mikora. And an onen, we know, cannot offer korbanos as an onen. Says Rashi, Alaninas a liberation. He can't bring the korban.
He's potter from a mitzvah. He's potter from a mitzvah.
And he's an oinen. Remember, we learned an oinen can eat at night. Normally, they couldn't eat a whole day and night, but they lifted it for an onen. So, but you can't shecht for him on his own. If he was with other people who are roi, maybe he could be included, but by himself, he can't. Ella, so if we're not talking about a case where the father died before Chatzois. That means one Chatzois hits and the son is involved with the father. So the son had an attachment to the Korban Pesach. And the father then dies, let's say, at 1 o'clock. So Ella de Misach Chatzois. So what did we say? Ein b'no memuna imo yivienu shum shlomim. So we said if the son had not subscribed, he could bring it as a shlomim. But hakovose chatzois. Once chatzois comes, it's nikba as a korban pesach, and it's near v'nidche, and it shouldn't be. It should be able to. It should go to graze until it gets a mum. It shouldn't be able to be offered as a shlomim. Amar Rabba la'olam demis koinim chatzois. The father died before Chatzois. So we said he's an oinen, umay v'yen l'shum Pesach, l'shum Pesach sheni. And a chanami, he can't bring it this Pesach, he's an oinen. But he can use it for Pesach sheni. That's the teretz of Rava. Abaya amar litztodin ktoni. No, you don't understand, says Abaya. There's two different cases. Like this. Meis achar Chatzois. If the person was still alive at the time of Chatzois, and the B'noi Memuna Iman and the son was subscribed, then Yavienu L'Shum Pesach. Even though the father's not there, the son is there, and he was subscribed, no problem, it was Kovela Pesach. Then Meis koidem chatzois, but if he died before chatzois, and ein b'no memune imo, and their son was not subscribed to it, then it's a moiser pesach. It's like every cat. For example, if I designate a korban, if I have an animal 2 days before Pesach and I designate it as a korban pesach, then the next day I go to the animal seller and I see a much nicer animal, and I buy the second animal. So now I have 2 animals the korban pesach. I only need one. So you offer one, the other one becomes a moiser pesach, an additional pesach, which I can use as a shlomim over the next 12 months. So that's exactly what happened here. There's an animal. It was prior to Chatzois. The father died. The son inherits the animal. It's a moiser pesach, and I can offer it as a shlomim. So Abaye says there's 2 different cases. Now, Rav Shervia Oimar, a different teretz. La'olam demis la'achar Chatzois. He died after Chatzois. So we said, how could he offer it as a shlomim? It was nigba as a pesach already. You know, the father was on his deathbed when Chatzois hit. So he was already lifted from the attachment to the korban, because everybody, virtually all goysesim go on to die. Roiv goysesim lemisa. So it was already pushed away. Rab Shimoni, the Omar ain't bali chayim nitchin, because this is of the opinion that you can't push aside a bal chay just because the guy died, and therefore the bal chay, the animal remains with kedushin. You can offer as a shlamim. That's Ravashi. Excuse me. I'm sorry. That's Rav Shurevia. Ravashi Omar lo'elam de mislachar chatzois. Rab Shimoni, the Omar ain't bali chayim nitchim, which again the animal is not pushed aside by anything. Can be left as a shlamim. Ravina Omar kagon sheifrishu achar chatzois. This, you know what? They were late to the party, and he designated the animal after Chatzois as a korban pesach. Now, once that happens, it's right. Umeisu bailim acher Chatzois, and then the bailim died. The kasavar Chatzois kova. However, it's not that shchita is kova, but the Chatzois is kova. So since at the time of shchita it was not designated as a korban pesach, it can be used as a moiser shlomim later on. So we have a 4 or 5 way: Rava, Abaye, Rav Shvervia, Ravashi, and Ravina. How to for when did he die? Mishnah. HaPesach shenisarv bezvachim. You have a corral with many animals there, different korbanos. You have, for example, 3 sheep. One's an Osham, one's an Ola, and the korban pesach got mixed in there. The din is kulan yiru. You can't offer any of them because you don't know which one is which. So the din is kulan yiru achi stavu. All these animals have to be put out to pasture until they get a mum. Then you sell them via machru. The yavud me'ayafesh sheben minzeh. So let's say you have a sheep, you have a goat. You choose the nicest one from each species. So then he has to buy the difference. He has to bring from his home money, because it's a suffix. Maybe one of the korbanos that he wants was the most expensive one. So you have to reconcile the values. Now, we know that there's a din, the firstborn of any animal, if it's a male, is a bechor, and you give it to the kohanim. If it's unblemished, the kohanim have to offer it as a korban shlamim. If it gets a mum, they can eat it as chulin. So now the pesach that got mixed up in bechoros. Reb Shimon Omer im chavuros kohanim yochlu. You know what? If the owners of these bechoros are kohanim, so they can eat. Kohanim can eat from the meat of a bechor. Therefore, and shechting it and everything has the same dinim as a shlomim. So therefore, they can shecht it and use it as a shlomim, as a pesach. But then, when Rab Shimon, who said that the Kohanim can eat one of them, how can he do it? Now, a normal bechor, as I said, is offered as a shlomim, which is eaten for 2 days and a night. Korban Pesach is only eaten one night. So you end up minimizing the amount of time that you can eat it. That's called bringing it lebeis hapsul earlier than you should, and you're not allowed to do that. So Reb Shimon letamei, the Omar Mevi and Kochim lebeis hapsul. He says, I have no problem with that. It's not. Ashram shenisar b'shlamim. You have a shlamim, which is eaten for 2 days. Then you have an ashram, which is eaten like a chatas for only 1 day. Reb Shimon Omer yishchatu b'tzafa. Now, a shlamim could be shechted only in the south. The kotchim, like an oil and an ashram and a chatas, have to be shechted in the north. So in this case, even though you don't know which animal is which, shechted b'tzafon, v'yachlu kachomer shebehen, and you eat the meat with the stringency of the most stringent thing, which is an ashram can only be eaten for 1 day. So they said to Rab Shimon, Amr lo, ein meviim kotchim lebeis hapsul. Well, all these other korbanos were shlamim, normally can be eaten for 2 days, and now you're minimizing how much time you can eat it. So you see, Rab Shimon holds that he has no problem bringing kotchim lebeis hapsul. So if the Chachamim have a problem, what do they suggest? Rabbanon hechi avdinan, in the case of ashram shnisar b'shlamim, Omer Rava namtin lo ad sheyumumu. You wait till they get a mum. The yavi behemoth shmeina. We're talking about the case of the Pesach that got mixed up. So you wait until they get a mum, and then you take a nice fat animal, and you make a statement. V'lema kol hecha de'isi lePesach. Whichever animal that in this corral was supposed to be the Korban Pesach, tachol alei dehoy, should have a chalois on this one, which then could be like a shlamim, because some moiser Pesach. The achalahu b'taris b'chor bal mum, and because they have a mum, so the kohanim can now eat it as chulin. So you took care of the fact that it was a moiser Pesach, made it a shlamim, and since it's got a mum, they can eat it. Now they have, once it's got a mum, you can only eat it lechulin, and it can be shechted in a certain way. You can't graze it. You can't treat it with bizoyon. We'll learn those dinim in Bechoros. Mishnah. Chavura she'ovad pischa. You have a group that designated a Korban Pesach, and they lost it. B'amar le'echad, they told to one of the people in the group, say ubi keshu shchat aleinu. Go and find another one, or go try to find the one that was lost, and shecht it for us. V'halach u'matza v'shachat. He found it, and he shechted it. V'heim lachu v'shachtu, but they didn't know he was going to do it, or going to find it. They went ahead and bought another animal and shechted. That depends which one was shechted first. If he found the original one and shechted it first, well, he was their shaliach. Therefore, im shalom nishchat rishon hu oichel mishalo, vehem ochlin imo mishalo. He can eat from the one he shechted, and they can eat from the one he shechted, because that was the original one that they had subscribed to, and they sent them as a shaliach to go find it. However, if the group had gone ahead and bought another animal and shechted it, they basically, what do they do with that? They withdrew their hands from the original one. And therefore, im shelahen nishchat rishon, heim oichlim mishalahem. They can eat from the Korban Pesach that they had chosen. V'hu oichel mishalo. He can only eat the one that he shechted. Now, if it's unclear which one was shechted first, or we know they shechted exactly the same time. So who oichel mishalo? He eats from his. They can't eat with him, because if they shechted their own, it's clear that what they were meaning was they were withdrawing their hands from his. So they can't eat from his. Now, v'shalahen yetzi lebeis hasreifa. Now, the one that they shecht has to be burned, because maybe this animal had been shechted second, because we don't know exactly which one was done first, and they were really subscribed on the first one, so they can't eat it. But Petur Milasos Pesach Sheni. But because of Safek, that they were attached, because it's possible that maybe theirs was shechted first, we don't require them to do Pesach Sheni. We say that they were Makayim, and because they were certainly subscribed to the first one. And you don't have to eat the Korban Pesach in order to get kapora. So they don't have to bring Pesach Sheni. Amr lahen im echarti. Now let's say when they send the shaliach to go try to find the lost one, he says to them, and if I'm late, su'u v'shachtu alai, go and find another one and keep me in that and keep me in mind as well. However, in that situation, halachu motzav v'shachat, he went ahead and found the one that had been lost, and he shechted it. And they went ahead, ve'hein lachu v'shachtu, and they bought another one and shechted it. So again, im shelahen nishchat rishon, if the group's Pesach was shechted first, then everybody's okay. Hein oichlin mishalahen, the group that did it, that bought the second animal and shechted it quickly, they eat from that one. And v'hu oichlim, he also said, have me in mind when you shechted. And they shechted that other one first. The trouble's going to be with the other one. Im shalon nishchat rishon. So that became, by shechting it, he's withdrawing his hands from the one he was with. And therefore he can eat that one. Hu ochel mishalo, vein ochel mishalahem. And they found a new animal and shechted it. That's no problem. However, in eina yadua ezeh ben nishchat rishon, if it's unclear which was shechted first, o sheshachtu shneim keechad, hein ochlin mishalahen, they eat from their own. V'hu eina ochel imohen, because he withdrew himself by shechting his own, and he can't eat him because perhaps the other. V'shelo yotz l'beis Yisrael for the same reason we gave before. Upatim lasos Pesach Sheni for the same reason we said before. He's also patim in Pesach Sheni. Amr lahen, the Amru lo. If he said to them and they said to him, Oichlin kulon min arishon. We make a pact that we're all going to eat from we lost one and we're sending you out to find it, and we're all going to eat from the Rishon. And if we don't know which one's going to be shechted first, if in that case, if they use that language, and we don't know which one was shechted first, then shnei and yotzim beis hasreifa. Then they're both taken to burn. Neither of them can eat it. Lo amar lahen v'lo amru lo, ein achroin zelazeh. If they didn't make such a statement, or they didn't make any statements to each other, the bnei chabura eat on their own, and he eats on their own. Because that's the one that he chose is his. The one that they shechted is there, and they're not connected to each other. Each one by shechting have moshchu yedeim and Pesach she'avad. They clearly had pulled their hand back from the original Pesach that got lost. Shtei chavuros nisaru pischein. You have two groups again. My group chose a Korban Pesach, and another group made a choice for a Korban Pesach, and they got mixed up. Elu moishkin lahen echad. One of the groups withdraw their hands from one. The elu moishkin lahen echad, and the other group draws with hand from one. And echad me elu balo etzel elu. One representative from one group goes to the other group. The echad me elu balo etzel elu, and this is the formula that they have to say. The kachem oimrim im shalonu hu hapesach hazeh. So they have two animals in front of them. We don't know. So if they say, if this one is our Pesach, yodecha mishuchos mishalach, your hand should be withdrawn from yours, v'nimnit al shalanu, and you subscribe with us. V'im shalchahu ha-pesach hazeh, and if this Pesach is yours, yadeinu mishuchos mishalanu, our hands will withdraw from our original one. V'nimnit al shalach. They cover all their bases with this language. You have 5 groups with 5 animals or 10 animals. You do the same formula. As long as one person from each group goes to the other and makes the statement, then they're going to be fine when they shech both animals. Period. Now, you have 2 people. One, Reuven and Shimon, their Korban Pesach got mixed. Each one takes an animal. One guy takes somebody from the market. And the other one subscribes somebody from the market. And they each confront each other. Im shalihu Pesach, if this is my Pesach, yadecha meshuchos b'shelcha, your hand should be withdrawn from yours. V'nin is ashlen, you'll be appointed by mine, to my envelope. The im shelchahu Pesach, but if this is your Pesach, yodai meshuchos b'shali, let my hand be withdrawn from mine. V'nin is ashalach, and I'll be subscribing with you. In that way, when both animals are shechted, they'll both be covered. We'll stop here. We'll finish tomorrow the